Outside, everybody was standing around in a big circle. Daddy come take my arm and lead me through the people. They moved to either side of us like the Red Sea parting for Moses. Up front was Reverend Pritchard with Mr. Tucker, dressed in a shiny black suit fit for a funeral. The Reverend asked early on, "Who give this woman to be wed?" I jumped, thinking it was Miss Johnson's turn to save me. I looked for her in the crowd and found her close to the front on my left. She gave me a little nod, and I smiled for the first time that day. Daddy say, "I do," and he kissed my hand, looking deep in my eyes. Then he gave me a little smile before he stepped back away from me. I stand there looking at my father, wondering what just happened. He drew his eyes to make me know I should turn round. When I do, I see Mr. Tucker grinning at me, and the lump in my throat goes so big it almost choked me. I had to keep my eyes on the Reverend to keep my insides inside. I couldn't hear nothing the Reverend say because I was listening for Miss Johnson to stop all this. Reverend Pritchard going on and on about good times and bad, health and sickness, better or worse. Then he asked me if I will. If I will what? I don't know what he talking about. I ain't say nothing. Alice, honey, Reverend Pritchard kind of whispered to me and looked at me like he's searching for something. Say, "I will." And I'm pretty sure we passed the part where Miss Johnson's supposed to save me. I ain't know what to do. I feel like crying or screaming, but I don't want to get Daddy and Mama in trouble with Mr. Tucker. Plus, I could be wrong. Maybe the part for Miss Johnson is a little later on, but I ain't want to say "I will" nothing. I was just standing there feeling lost and trapped, and a little mewling sound escaped from me. Well, that was good enough for Reverend Pritchard. Next thing I heard is, "I now pronounce you man and wife." What? How that happen? I turned around looking for Miss Johnson. I see her, Mama, Daddy, Aunt Betty, and a few others fussing amongst theyselves. I look at the rest of the people, and they seem to be little pockets of commotion here and there. "Let's simmer down now, please," Reverend Pritchard say, trying to quiet folks. "We ain't quite through. I'm sure Mr. Tucker here want to kiss his bride." "Alice, Princess." Mr. Tucker gave a little tug to my arm and called to me from far away. I turned and see him smile, then puck up and pull me to him. I quick turned my head to look for Miss Johnson one more time, the prayer promise screaming inside my brain. Mr. Tucker ended up kissing my cheek when I turned my head. I look back at him and feel a real bad sick stomach coming on. I turn to run, but Mr. Tucker started running inside me, like we doing this together. When I get near to the edge of the crowd, Mr. Tucker catch my arm to keep me back or something, and I can't hold it no more. I vomit all over his shiny black funeral suit. That was the wedding in my book, The Resurrection of Alice. This book is a novel, but it was inspired by a true story. A friend of mine's mother was put into an arranged marriage when she was a teenager to a man who was older than her parents. And she was the first person in her family to graduate from high school. She also got a full scholarship to go to college. But her parents told her she could not go to college. She had to marry this man who had been the family benefactor. And that's why he had been the family benefactor. This is in the 1940s in rural Alabama. My friend did not know that about her parents until she grew up. She told me years later. I was shocked. And I told my aunt, who was at the time 93 years old, and she said, "Oh, baby, that's so common. They did that all the time." Not just in the South either. They did it in the North. And then she named at least a half dozen of her friends in Cleveland who had been put into arranged marriages. This was something that was brand new to me, that information that African Americans in the 1950s and before did arranged marriages with their daughters primarily. And the difference between the marriages that were arranged then and the ones that are continue, that custom that continues to this day, is that the people were so poor and so desperate, and they did not see another way out, that this was their only way out that they could imagine. And so they got the dowry ahead of time, before the marriage, years before the marriage. This daughter might not be 1 year old. When she becomes of age, and of age back then could have been 12, 13, 14 years old. When she becomes of age, you can marry her, but we need a roof over our head right now. My husband needs a job right now. We are hungry right now. I asked my aunt, I said, this sounds like you were selling your children. And she said, no, it's kind of like a lottery. Sometimes, because the girl was so young and it was going to take a while for her to grow up, that man might meet somebody else and he might marry someone else and they wouldn't have to pay him back. Sometimes the man might die and they wouldn't have to pay him back. Sometimes the man's fortune might change. And even though it wasn't in writing, it was understood that this is about finances. And if you cannot keep her when she's of that age, then she doesn't have to marry you. Sometimes that girl would grow up and love that man just like she would have loved him anyway. And they have a nice union. And then sometimes it was like my friend's mother, who did not want to do it, but this is in a time when you didn't question your parents. I wrote this book in tribute to all of those women who found themselves in situations back then, but also people who find themselves in situations today. We get stuck, and Alice found a way out, and thus the name, The Resurrection of Alice. Her death was her wedding, but it ends on a happy note. If you'd like to read the book or find out more about it, go to my website, www.perritales.com. Perri is Perri, Tales, Tales.com. Thank you.